Welcome to the channel. Hit subscribe and dive into stories that'll stay with you long after the video ends. Let's begin. The rain had been falling for hours, thin at first, then steady, then merciless. It beat against the tin roofs of Ashbourne, a small town tucked between the rolling fields and the slow, silver river that cut through the valley. By midnight, the main street was slick with puddles reflecting the glow of the diner's red neon sign. Daniel Mercer pulled his coat tight and ducked under the awning. His shift at the mill had ended late, his hands still raw from the iron press. He just wanted coffee. Something hot, something to chase the night away. But when the door creaked open, he saw her. She stood by the jukebox, dripping wet, her hair clinging to her face. A yellow dress now soaked through clung to her like memory itself. She looked lost, and her eyes, those dark, wide eyes, seemed to search every face in the room for safety. Daniel hesitated. "You okay, miss?" She turned toward him slowly, her lips trembling before she found her voice. "Car broke down by the bridge. I didn't know where else to go." Her voice was soft, careful, like a note played too quietly. He offered her his jacket. She didn't refuse. The bell above the door jingled as another gust of rain swept in, bringing a chill that wrapped around them both. They sat in a booth by the window, two strangers in a storm. Daniel called for 2 coffees. She wrapped her fingers around the cup, letting the steam hide her face. "What's your name?" he asked. "Clara," she said after a pause. "Clara Whitfield." Outside, the rain thickened. Thunder rolled over the valley, and in the flash of lightning, Daniel thought he saw something. Movement in the street. A dark shape standing across from the diner, half hidden under the dripping awning of the hardware store. Watching, Clara noticed it too. Her hand tightened on her cup. "Do you know him?" Daniel asked quietly. She shook her head, but her eyes said something else. Minutes passed. The shape didn't move. Then just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone, swallowed by the downpour. When Daniel turned back, Clara was already on her feet. "I should go," she said. "Thank you for the coffee." "You can't walk out there," he said, standing too. "It's half a mile to the bridge." She hesitated at the door, her fingers trembling on the handle. "I'll be fine," she whispered. And then she was gone. The rain swallowed her silhouette, and Daniel stood in the doorway long after she vanished, watching the empty street until the storm eased into silence. The next morning, the sheriff's car was parked by the diner. 2 deputies stood in the mud by the bridge, faces grave. Daniel's stomach tightened as he stepped closer. A broken car, passenger door open, no sign of anyone, just a yellow scarf caught in the reeds. He picked it up, heart pounding, and from the ridge above the river, the sheriff called out, "Mercer, we need to talk." The scarf smelled faintly of rain and perfume, something floral, almost innocent. Daniel turned it over in his hands as Sheriff Harland approached, his boots squelching in the mud. "You saw her last night," the sheriff said flatly. "Didn't you?" Daniel nodded. "At the diner. She said her car broke down." The sheriff squinted at the horizon, chewing on the end of a matchstick. "Clara Whitfield. Name sound familiar?" Daniel shook his head. "She's the mayor's niece," the sheriff said. "Been missing since last week. Left town with a man named Randall Brooks. Folks been looking for her ever since." The words hit Daniel like cold rain. Missing. He stared down at the scarf again, trying to reconcile the frightened woman from last night with the name now echoing in the sheriff's mouth. "She said her car broke down," Daniel murmured. "Then what?" "She left. I tried to stop her. Said she'd be fine," the sheriff sighed. "Son, I need you to come with me." They drove back to town in silence. Every corner of Ashbourne seemed heavier that morning, the fog hanging low over the roofs, the old church bell tolling slow and hollow. At the station, Daniel gave his statement. Every word felt like walking through quicksand. The deputies exchanged glances, jotting down notes, whispering under their breath. When he left, people watched him from behind curtains. Gossip moved faster than rain in Ashbourne. That evening, as he sat on his porch with a cigarette and a cup of cold coffee, he heard tires crunching on the gravel road. A car stopped out front. A woman stepped out. The same yellow dress. The same eyes. Clara. He froze. She walked up the path, her shoes muddy, her hair tangled. She looked pale, shaken, but alive. "You shouldn't have told them," she whispered. "What are you talking about?" "Clara, they thought you were missing." "I wasn't missing." Her voice trembled. "I was hiding." The porch light flickered in the wind. Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. "From who?" Before she could answer, a car door slammed from down the road. 2 men stepped out, deputies. One of them called out, "Mercer!"
"Step away from her!"
Daniel looked from Clara to the officers, confusion burning through him. "What's going on?" Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she whispered. The sheriff's voice cut through the dark. "Daniel Mercer, you're under arrest for the abduction of Clara Whitfield." Daniel's world spun. "What?" But the sheriff was already reaching for his cuffs. Clara didn't move. She just stared at him, wide-eyed, trembling as they led him away into the night. The courtroom smelled of varnish and sweat, the air thick with whispers. Daniel Mercer sat alone at the defense table, his heart hammering behind the stiff collar of his borrowed suit. Across from him, Clara sat under the witness stand's pale light, hair brushed, dress pressed, no trace of the frightened woman he'd met in the rain. The prosecutor's voice sliced through the murmurs. "Mr. Mercer, you admit being the last person to see Miss Whitfield before her disappearance." Daniel nodded. "Yes, but she came to me. She asked for help, and you claim she left willingly?" "She did leave. I tried to stop her because of the storm." The prosecutor turned toward the jury, his tone practiced. "Ladies and gentlemen, the accused admits restraining Miss Whitfield. Miss Whitfield herself will confirm." Clara's eyes flickered to Daniel, then back to the floor. "Miss Whitfield," the prosecutor said, "did the defendant threaten you?" A pause so long you could hear the ceiling fan turning. Then softly, "I was scared." Daniel rose halfway from his chair. "Of what, Clara? Not me." "Tell them." The judge's gavel struck. "Mr. Mercer, you will remain seated." Clara's voice trembled. "I thought he'd hurt me if I didn't do what he said." Daniel stared in disbelief. The people of Ashbourne shifted in their seats, whispering behind hands. His lawyer, Calloway, leaned forward. "Permission to cross-examine." "Proceed," said the judge. Calloway stepped closer to Clara. "Miss Whitfield, you said you were scared. Who exactly frightened you?" She hesitated. Her eyes darted toward the back of the courtroom where Mayor Whitfield, her uncle, sat rigid and pale. "I can't say, can't," Calloway repeated quietly. "Or won't." Her hands clenched in her lap. "If I speak, people will die." Gasps rippled through the room. The mayor stood, shouting, "That's enough!" The judge thundered, "Sit down, Mr. Whitfield." Clara's voice broke. "He made me lie," the prosecutor barked. "Objection." But the damage was done. The courtroom erupted in voices, chairs scraping, the storm outside rattling the tall windows like restless hands. The judge called a recess, his gavel striking over the chaos. Reporters spilled from the benches, scribbling, snapping photographs. As Daniel was let out, Clara brushed past him in the narrow aisle. Her whisper barely reached his ear. "They know what we saw. Don't trust the sheriff." Then she was gone, swallowed by the crowd, leaving Daniel with a pulse full of thunder and the echo of her fear. Outside, rain began again, pattering against the courthouse steps, washing over the town like something ancient that refused to be buried. The rain came back that night, heavier than before. It drummed on the courthouse roof, spilled down the gutters, and whispered secrets through the jailhouse cracks. Daniel sat on the cot, staring at the wall. He couldn't sleep, not after Clara's words. They know what we saw. What had they seen? What did she mean? Near midnight, the corridor door creaked. A dim lantern glow flickered on the iron bars. Clara stepped into the light. "Clara?" Daniel whispered. "Quiet." Her face was pale, eyes red from crying. "I don't have long." He moved to the bars. "Tell me the truth." She looked over her shoulder, voice trembling. "It wasn't you they wanted. It was Randall Brooks, the man I left town with. He worked for my uncle. He found something, bank records, ledgers, proof the mayor was laundering money through the mill." Daniel's blood ran cold. "And Randall?" "They killed him," she whispered. "Made it look like he ran off. I saw it happen. I ran too. When my car broke down, I just needed to hide. Then you found me, and the sheriff. He's in on it. Everyone in that courtroom works for my uncle." Thunder rolled. The cell shuddered as lightning flashed white through the barred window. Clara's tears shimmered. They made me lie about you. Said if I didn't, I'd end up in the river like Randall. Daniel reached through the bars, gripping her hand. We can still stop them. Go to the state police. Someone outside Ashbourne. She shook her head. They'll silence us before we ever get there. Footsteps echoed. Clara's eyes widened. Tomorrow, don't say anything. Just listen. Then she was gone, vanishing into the storm. When morning came, Daniel was led into the courtroom again. But it was different this time. The benches buzzed with unease. The mayor wasn't there. Neither was the sheriff. Then the door opened. 2 federal agents walked in, rain still dripping from their coats. One of them spoke firmly. By order of the U.S. Attorney's Office, this court is suspended pending investigation into corruption and obstruction. Gasps filled the room. Clara entered behind them, guarded but free. She raised her eyes to Daniel. The agent continued. Miss Whitfield has provided evidence of crimes committed by Mayor Whitfield and Sheriff Harland. Mr. Mercer is hereby released of all charges. Daniel closed his eyes, breath trembling. When he opened them, Clara was staring back, silent tears cutting through her calm. He mouthed the words, "Thank you." She only shook her head. "Not yet," she whispered. 2 nights later, the storm broke for good. The air smelled of wet earth and wildflowers. Daniel walked down to the bridge where it had all begun. The moon hung low above the river, its silver light tangled in the reeds. Clara was there, waiting. Her coat fluttered softly in the breeze. They found the papers, she said quietly. Randall's notes, everything. My uncle's gone. The sheriff, too. It's over. Daniel studied her face, the faint bruises fading beneath her eyes. Then why do you look like you're still afraid? She smiled faintly. Because truth doesn't end things, it starts new ones. And some people don't like that. A car approached from the far end of the bridge. Headlights washed over them. 2 agents stepped out, silhouettes against the light. Clara turned toward them. They're taking me to the city. I'll testify. They said I'll be safe. Daniel's chest tightened. And what about me? You go home, she said gently. Start over. Let the river forget us, he laughed softly. How do I forget the rain? She took his hand, pressed something into it. The yellow scarf, now dry and folded. Then don't, she whispered. Remember it. Just don't come looking for me. The agents called her name. She turned to go, but paused halfway across the bridge. For a moment, she looked back, her eyes glinting with that same quiet sorrow he'd seen the first night. Thank you, she mouthed. Then she was gone, swallowed by the mist and the sound of the river. Daniel stood there until the headlights disappeared. The rain began again, gentle and warm, rippling across the surface of the water. He lifted the scarf, letting it flutter in the wind like a small yellow flame. Somewhere far off, a train whistle echoed through the valley, a promise of distance, of new places untouched by memory. Ashbourne woke the next morning to sunlight and silence. The diner opened. The mill whistle blew. Life, stubborn and small, carried on. But sometimes, when the clouds gathered over the hills and the rain began to fall, Daniel would stand by his window and listen. He could almost hear her voice through the storm, and though he never saw her again, he liked to believe she'd made it out, that somewhere beyond the river, beyond the valley, Clara Whitfield had found a place where rain meant nothing more than water on the roof. The scarf stayed folded on his mantle. A relic of the night everything changed. The rain fell softly, endlessly, and the town of Ashbourne never spoke her name again. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life true stories.